Hey, happy Friday. We're back for another episode of the Tech Behind FinTech, where we talk about the technology that powers the money. Bringing back a returning guest, Chiagozie Iwu, CEO of Niger Crypto. Welcome back. Happy to have you here.
Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure, Nnamdi.
Listen, today's a big day. October 25th, the Nigerian government went forward, the CBN went forward with the eNaira. So they rolled it out and it's a digital currency. So what we're going to do today is just say what's next. Chigos is going to help us break it all down, get into it so we can understand it. And we're going to go back and forth in that. Like always, before we kick off our major topic of the day, we're going to just go over some relevant news articles. We're just going to go through one today because it's a lot we want to cover with the eNaira rollout. So let's start it off. So recently, in the states, November 2nd was we had a vote. That was our day. We vote for different political candidates. So more so on the state level and the Senate level. So New York has a new mayor, and the mayor of Miami was reelected. And it was just a real interesting article. We found that the Miami Mayor Suarez said he's going to accept his first check in Bitcoin, and the New York mayor-elect Adams mentioned that he's going to his first three paychecks he wants in Bitcoin. It's all a way to really start putting crypto in the forefront of both of these major cities. They both want the business. So found the article very interesting. I posted their back and forth Twitter conversations. Chigoshi, what do you think about that?
Wow, this is amazing, right? So usually, it has been very difficult to see mainstream politicians talk about Bitcoin in a positive light, right? In early 2014, 2015, we had one or two politicians talk about it, but negative and linked to the Silk Road. But more recently, we've been seeing more politicians, right? Not just in the US, in the UK, in Switzerland, in all parts of the world, talking about Bitcoin in a positive light. So it's good to see like some of the biggest cities in the United States, their mayors all like having this general positive attitude towards Bitcoin, and of course New York is the financial center of the United States, right? The action happens in New York basically, so it's gonna be cool if yes. He actually does this and actually makes New York a financial hub. We've seen in the past, the New York Attorney General having this like sort of having some cases against some
Yeah.
crypto companies, right? And hopefully this is going to be a step in a more positive direction, especially looking at the case with XRP and a couple of other cryptos. So
A question I have for you, for someone who's been in it from early stages when people didn't even it wasn't mainstream, it wasn't even popular, right? So when you start talking about early like 2013, 2012, you've obviously been writing it since the beginning. How do you feel about this?
wow, you don't want to know. You
I
don't
do,
want to know.
actually.
It's amazing, right? It's amazing. It is a double-edged sword, right? It's sad that at least there are still a lot of people that take this that still tag this as that's still like as kind of rubbish, right? It's sad when we say that, right? But it's still great that a lot of mainstream investors, mainstream politicians, mainstream major players, major CEOs of major companies, right? Even non-Elon Musk type CEOs, even acknowledging the importance of this technology, it really feels amazing, right? Back then, like when you're talking about Bitcoin, like they were like, "What is this dude talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're talking about I remember Bill Maher once making a joke about like disappearing, disappear. If you invested in cryptocurrency, like you should accept like, oh, you invested in fake e-money. You should have your fake like things like that. It hurts, right? It really, really hurt because you knew the impact this technology is supposed to have on the main on the traditional systems, right? So yeah, it's amazing to see these guys talk about it, and it's a step in the right direction. Hopefully, we're gonna see more. Maybe when we talk about eNaira, I will also give you the situation here in Nigeria. It's a bit more bleaker, right? But it's good to see the rest of the world. In the UK, a lot of politicians have said something positive. I think the UK's also wants to do something great about having a major hub in cryptocurrency, just like the New York. In fact, a lot of cities have gone further than that. In Switzerland, you have the Zug region in Switzerland, which is plucked between Luxembourg and Switzerland, right? Also made it a major hub for cryptocurrency. There you'll find the headquarters of companies like AAVE, Ethereum, and these guys have actually like regulatory friendly areas for cryptocurrencies. You've seen major cities like that. You also have Estonia, Tallinn, Estonia, right? In Europe also. You also have like one or two other cities, even in Singapore, Hong Kong, Malta, like a couple of places having very good crypto friendly regulations. Even big countries like in Africa, like Rwanda, right? Rwanda has a pretty decent population. South Africa has a very good population also going to. So it's good to see politicians talk about crypto in a positive light. It shows that yes, we've gone a long way in this 10 or so, 10 to 15 years,
I
basically.
mean, even when we covered, I mean, me and you even spoke about this a few months ago, and it was brought up last week. Here in the states, like Wyoming, they're really making a big push to be crypto friendly. They recognize decentralized organizations, well, decentralized autonomous organizations
Yeah.
as legit companies now. And it's for all you that don't know, right? That's just it's essentially a company totally automated and running on the chain. So it's interesting to see where the future is going with that. And I think this is a perfect segue into our main topic of the day, which we're going to get into the eNaira. And please, anyone, if you have questions, as always, you can chat your questions in. We're going live on right now. We launched our website, so we have the techbehindfintech.com where you can see this live running YouTube, on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitch. So you have all these different resources to look at it. So let's get into it. You know, the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, earlier this year, right? I brought you on. We had a conversation. For those that don't, we're not going to go at because that's a whole other topic, and we covered it at length. If you look at our past episodes, you can see Chiagozie on it talking about it. When when Bitcoin was banned, and it just sent everything into a frenzy, especially with companies like Niger Crypto and exchanges like Niger Crypto and fintechs that dealt with that, right? They had to seek alternative solutions. Now that you're seeing eNaira, I just want to get your thoughts on it. First, I want to get your thoughts on it and then help the audience understand what's going on.
Okay, right. So basically, let me just give an overview of what's going on because my thoughts, my thoughts go in a totally different direction from
Okay.
what is going on. So, but basically, the e-naira basically is aimed at having like a digital version of the naira, right? Pegged at 1:1, meaning that one e-naira is equal to one naira, right? And it's basically it was basically I wouldn't say is basically as a part of a general strategy we're seeing internationally with more central banks talking about the CBDC. What it simply means is a central bank digital currency, right? So this is the first iteration, or rather, this is the first step towards the CBDC, or as they claim, it is the CBDC, right? Built on a hyperledger blockchain. This, of course, is a permission blockchain, not a permissionless blockchain like we're used to in the crypto space, right? So it's kind of a centralized blockchain, still controlled by the government, right? So basically, they just built an app, and the app you can sign up with your bank account, and you could use it to transfer eNaira. I can transfer eNaira to Nnamdi with just his username, and Nnamdi can transfer eNaira to me with just my username or with my eNaira ID, whatever the case might be, right? So basically, it's just a digital, like a wallet version of the Naira, right? Still go through the KYC and you still use your bank accounts to register in it. So that's basically where what eNaira is, right? I don't want to give it more credit than it deserves, right? So that's why I actually
And, and, and before we jump in, before we move on, there's a couple of things that you mentioned. So
yeah.
Chigozie mentioned hyperledger. So the difference between what we see in Ethereum and things like Ethereum's public. So that means I can get you can take someone's address, look at Etherscan, and you can see all their transactions. Hyperledger is more for it's more of a permission based private. So the central bank is the authority of that, and then they have nodes, which are the different banks in their ecosystem. But all of the transactions are really can be noticed only by the central bank. It's a shared ledger in a sense that the participating banks can only see their transactions. So, when we talk about public, that's a really important distinction, right? The idea that if you have an address, you can go on a public on a website and you can see the history of that entire transaction versus if it's a closed loop system, like they're leveraging Hyperledger to do that behind the scenes. So I just want to a couple of those, add those points in, and yeah, please continue. What are you currently seeing right now on the ground?
Okay, so basically, right? Let me give some context, right? Because to understand the thinking behind the eNaira and what the Nigerian government is doing, right, is good to understand context, right? Basically, back in February 2021, this year, right, there was a circular passed by the CBN to the banks, preventing the banks closing cryptocurrency exchange accounts. What did it mean, right? No matter the level of licensing you had, right? Whether you have all the licenses in the world, no matter how regulated you are by the SEC as a crypto exchange, as long as you're involved in the cryptocurrency world, you are not allowed to have a bank account according to the Nigerian government, or rather according to the Central Bank of Nigeria, right? So what this entailed is that all the banks closed, both corporate and even some individual accounts, right? Perceived to be linked to cryptocurrency players or cryptocurrency individuals in the country, right? Niger Crypto, we lost our corporate bank account in Nigeria that period. Of course, we still have corporate bank accounts running in other countries, but our Nigerian bank account was closed and we had to convert most of our holdings to USDT, which turned out to be a very good decision because then one USDT was about 360 naira. Currently, is about 560 naira. That's almost a 50% increase. So that wasn't so bad, right? So, but we had to convert most of our and look for a way to hedge our positions, right? So basically, this went so after they did this, right? It was a very big shock to not just the cryptocurrency industry, the fintech industry, because a lot of fintech industries had services kind of linked with the cryptocurrency exchanges. What am I talking about? For example, right? There is a particular fintech we were all using, right, in which cryptocurrency exchanges were the biggest customers in terms of transaction flow, right? And this is transaction flow flowing within the system, and a lot of these companies were affected, right? So over time, we didn't hear that the central bank wants to launch their own central bank digital currency. Yes, of course, it was a lot of central banks all over the world have been talking about that, but they were actually, oh no, we're going to release something before the 1st of October of this year, right? So that was surprising, right? So this is how a lot of people saw it. I'm not saying this is how it is, right? But this is how a lot of people saw it, right? Especially the major markets, right? On the under 35 in Nigeria. Most people over 40 do not have an appreciation for technology. What do I mean, right? It's easier to see somebody under 40 using, let's say, a mobile banking app, right, than somebody over 40. You understand? So when it comes to technological use cases, it's usually the youth population, right? And this youth population just saw this as the government is trying to compete with cryptocurrency exchanges or cryptocurrency companies. So they are doing their own cryptocurrency, if you know what I mean. So, or rather, what they call a cryptocurrency. Of course, that's not a cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah.
It's a digital currency, right? So, basically, that is how it was seen. That is how it was perceived, right? And believe me, I agree with it up to a point. Like 80% of the points made, I agree with it, right? So they were saying that okay, we can have more control, right? We come to these youths that are using these digital forms of currency. Instead of them using this, we push them to the eNaira, basically, right? And that's what it's kind of what one of the things they said when they were even talking to major stakeholders within the space, right? And they also wanted to control like APIs and things like that. So down to my opinion now, right? There is nothing that eNaira can do right now that you cannot do with your traditional mobile banking apps or your traditional internet banking apps, right? Nothing. Transfer money. In fact, the eNaira has certain limits, right? Transfer money, I can transfer with my bank accounts. right? And it will even get to the user immediate, like instant, right? I don't know if you know what I mean. Like it's the same
No,
thing, right?
I get
Basically,
it.
right? So it's the APIs that they claim they've not even perfected this, right? The APIs that they claim they will do for merchants to integrate, the banks already have this, right? We have a lot of big Paystack and Flutterwave are billion-dollar companies utilizing bank APIs, right, to accept payments. Now, the eNaira claim to be doing this, but all their APIs are offline. Is not the little iteration that they've released is very, very horrible. And this is projects. Now, let me give you some context, right? This project was cost millions of dollars, right? Right? And the app, when the app was launched, right, they had to delist from the Play Store, right, because the number of bugs, like nothing was working, like nothing was literally working on that on that app, right? The rating was less than 2.0, right? So I think they had to remove from Play Store. Now, and this was an app that cost millions of dollars, right? Fintechs like Niger Crypto and other fintechs within Nigeria, right, build better solutions. Which they just had about 50,000 users on launch, right? We've had fintechs that have over 500,000 users, right? That have built better solutions and integrating with the same banking APIs, the same bank open APIs, right? With just apps that have spent thousands of dollars, right? So it's when the younger population sees all this thing, right? I don't know if you check on social media, right? Everybody is bashing the eNaira because everybody is unimpressed with what they're seeing, right? and,
It's
and
interesting that you say that. I mean, historically, when you look at government projects, not just Nigeria, just and when it revolves around technology, just overall, it's been lagging behind the private sector, just in general, whether adapting new practices, methodologies around it. I mean, even something as simple as not releasing it to just a small number of people so you can do some type of testing, get some continuous improvement. I mean, we're gonna start getting into my world of like DevOps. That's a whole other conversation. But
yeah,
there's certain practices that you do to mitigate those types of risk and or to isolate your failure so you can learn from it and reiterate. So I don't know in depth what was done just from listening to the news stories and hearing about some of the issues people had when they were rolling out. I could only imagine, and based on what you're saying. So and I think that's something that fintechs and obviously companies like yours, they have done well at in terms of, look, this is how we build software, modern software. So like I said, I don't know the practices that was done, but based on what you're describing, that rollout does not seem like they followed just certain modern practices.
exactly. I think this is just so true, right? Like, they used a company called Big Inc, right? To build this software, right? So as I say, I do not know why it's a foreign company. It's not a Nigerian company. Cost them millions of dollars, and there are so many Nigerian software companies that are building better iterations of even more difficult apps than what the eNaira is trying to achieve, right? So, one of the things the central bank stated is that it's going to increase financial inclusion, right? For those that don't know, what financial inclusion means is just that more people participate in the financial markets, right? One of the reasons we have inequality in the world is access to financial tools is tilted more towards like the wealthy, or rather the middle class, right? And the wealthy than those low income people, right? So they say it's going to tilt financial inclusion, right? So now, if I want to sign up to my eNaira app, I have to use my bank account, my bank mobile banking app, my mobile banking details, right, to sign up to eNaira. So the question I have been asking myself is, if I need the banks to sign up on eNaira, right? If they are offering the same things, even less than what the banks are offering, because the banks are offering even better services. Of course, the banks are not the friends of the crypto world, but in this case, we have to admit the banks have gone way, 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 way further in this, right? Than what we have here, right? So the question is, why don't I just go open a bank account? Are you trying to compete with the private sector, right? I remember my basic Econ 101, right? The government does not compete with private sector. The government only comes in when social welfare is lacking to add social welfare value, right? Now, in this particular case, what additional social welfare are you enduring, right? You are competing with the banks.
So
That's
a, a,
communism.
a few things on that, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily competing because here's my rationale from looking at it and the way their architecture is established, right? They control the hyperledger, but then they need the banks as nodes, right, in their ecosystem. And then the user now will have to communicate, have to deal directly with a bank in order to establish their eNaira wallet, but it's specifically within a bank within the ecosystem of the eNaira. So I don't know how that is competitive.
You, no. What you just said is so true on the tech side, right? But I'm trying to
Yeah.
look at it on the utility point of view, right? How useful this is on it, because they claim it has a utility, is banking the unbanked. Look at that term. You're banking the unbanked, right? Which is the buzzword for all fintechs, right? And a lot of fintechs have actually achieved this banking the unbanked, right? But in this case, you have a situation whereby I need to use my bank account to register. So how are you banking the unbanked? Meaning you're only targeting the banks, if you know what I mean. You understand?
Interesting point. I have this thing from their white paper. So everyone who knows, so every project in the blockchain space, digital project, they always have a concept of putting out a white paper. And the eNaira is
Yes.
no different. So they release, I'm gonna put it in the chat, and I'll also for I think it goes on all our platforms except for LinkedIn. So if you want to learn more about it, this is the eNaira white paper. Now obviously a lot of the white papers usually come out before the actual product. So the white paper always describes the best, this is what the vision is and how it's going to do great things. That's not necessarily saying that the actual product will be a one-to-one relationship. So we have to keep that in mind. But
Yeah.
in terms of, so they have various tiers, it looks like. So if you don't have a bank account, you can still get access to it with a telephone number and an NIN verification, but you have the account maximum balance is 20,000. You have daily transactions of 120,000 naira and so forth. As you get down the different tiers, when you have a bank account and you can verify your BVN, then you can get your account balance maximum. It seems like 500,000 naira and daily transaction limit is 5 million. And for merchants, it's unlimited and no limit. So that seems to be what they're. So it seems like they do have a method. Like in the white paper, they do say it's a section that they say that 35%, and I hope I get the stat right, but 35% suffer from illiteracy, right? Like so, their goal was to make it real straightforward to understand and download it. Like I said, that's what the white paper says. In practice, I cannot validate any of this stuff because I downloaded the app just to experiment with it, but I haven't used it or connected to
Yeah.
it in any way, shape, or form. So I just wanted to add that note in. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so basically, right, I did read this white paper quite a long time ago, right? Yes, what I need to give people some context about the Nigerian situation, right? Now, when it comes to an NIN verification, right? First of all, 20,000 naira is about that should be about, just give me a second. That should be about $30 to $40.
Oh wow.
Just to put that in context, right? 120,000 naira is about $200, to put that in context, right? So, and believe
That's
me,
great. That in context. Thanks for that.
yeah, yes, and 10 years ago, I would have said that okay, yeah, because we had Nigeria has a lower cost of living than the US, so I can value 20,000 naira can buy. I could value it at what $500 can buy in the US, right? But right now, our cost of living is almost on par with. I think a place like Alabama might have a lower cost of living than Lagos. So you understand. So it's not like it used to be, basically, right? So a telephone number, right? NIN verification is not something that's the supposed Nigerians are the one who are rich, like the not so literate, like the semi-literate Nigerians. The Nigerians in the rural areas, they do not have an NIN verification. Let's just put that. Let me put that out there, right? They do not have an NIN number, right? Even if they do not know how to utilize this, or they do not know how to utilize the apps, right? The app is not more user friendly than my banking app. It's actually more complicated to use than my banking app, right? The telephone number verification. To get a telephone number in Nigeria, you also need NIN. I don't know if you understand what I mean. Like they say, tier one telephone number without NIN verification. I wait NIN. For me to fully have my telephone number working as such from next year, I need to have my NIN. So you see
okay.
that you understand. So you see
You
this
can't have a telephone number without having an NIN.
exactly. So you see that this first two tiers don't really make practical sense. If you know what I mean, right?
This is why I have you on, because outside looking in, I'm a technology guy, right? I'm going to read the white paper. I'm going to look at the requirements. I'm going to go in, but you're the person on the ground. You have expertise in this area, and you can see, okay, this is what it says, but here's the reality of the situation. I love it.
Exactly. So you see that these first two sections, right, does not actually make so much sense, right? Because basically, what are you like? For you to properly use it, right? Let me give you some context, right? You can open your bank account and have a 50,000 Naira limit, right? Without an ID, with just your telephone number.
Really?
Yes.
What about the whole KYC, know your customer?
Now, they would open the bank account, then you now start doing all those things. So they would place you on a very big limit. There's a 50,000 Naira limit. So when you provide all those information, they then increase your limits.
Got it.
So aren't they copying the banking sector? Isn't it the same thing? Like, what is the difference? Like, I just want to know what the difference is. The banks even went further, right? I could send money with what they call USSD, right? Without even having internet connection. With just my mobile phone, I could send as low as 20,000 Naira, 30,000 Naira, with what they call USSD banking, right? So as long as I got a phone, I do not have to have an internet connection. Remember, in a lot of rural areas in Nigeria, there's very bad internet connection, right? 100%. When I go home to where I'm from, right, to the rural area, right, I usually have to tell everybody that for these 2 days I'm going to be unavailable because there is no good internet connection. I can't even open an email like in those areas, right? So my dad will be like, "Oh, why are you not coming back?" I'll be like, "Please, I need to be online. I'm running an exchange. I need to be online every day." You understand? I cannot afford a whole day at home, right? Because the internet is very bad. So the banks have USSD banking, right? The CBN promised that this USSD would also be implemented on the eNaira. We have not seen it yet. So many of the banks have done a lot of what they want to do. Of course, it's private sector. There's the profit motive, right? It is going to do well. But but for the central bank, right, which is a government organization without a profit motive to come and do this, of course they're going to do it badly. And we have seen this with the first iteration of the app. I don't know what subsequent updates are going to do, right? But so far, it has been extremely horrible, right? So it is surprising. Believe me, the idea behind the CBDC is perfect, right? I am not going to go against it, right? Because it shows that at least governments want to participate in this digital space, right? It will be easier, right, to have a CBDC than, let's say, a stable coin like USDT, right? If they would allow it to flow the way USDT flows. But the problem with CBDCs, right, which is going to be more prevalent in countries like Nigeria and China, right, because it seems the Nigerian government seems to be copying the China route more, right, because even the central bank governor uses, this is what is happening in China. That is scary. That is scary. As somebody that has a business running in Lagos, right, that is scary. To use the China example, it's really, really scary, right? Because an economy bridges inequality by small businesses becoming big, not by encouraging big government-run corporations. That has never worked anywhere, right? I am a supporter. Like, yes, government should have social welfare benefits, right? But not governments running companies that are supposed to be run by. So what you have now is a government-run bank. The central bank is no more a regulator on a banker's bank. It's a bank on its own, competing with
Interesting.
Axis Bank, Zenith Bank. That's what they want to do. And
Eh,
they would be ahead because they have the government. Like what Nigeria does is that wherever the government is interested in, they know how to kill private enterprise, right? So the government takes control of that particular sector,
I
basically.
mean, if you look at it based on what you're saying, right? I mean, if you look at the strategy, but first of all, and correct me if I'm wrong. I know we use a lot of acronyms in technology. CBC, Central Bank Digital Coin, correct?
Yes,
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 I want to just
CBDC.
want you to know that like that's what it stands for. Number two, right? If you just look at the chronological events, it is like I said, I'm trying to just from an unbiased standpoint, the chronological events. February happens. That's when I know I had you on at that time. Bitcoin, crypto banned in the bank, right? October rolls by. All right, we have this digital coin for you to start utilizing. Um, you know, I mean, it's in line, right, with what you're saying, right, in terms of the controls. Like, if I don't know, I'm just looking at it. The whole point is to move it forward from a technology standpoint. You don't ban technologies. What you do is you embrace and you add more, and you see, okay, how can we improve? How can we iterate? How can we get better? That's the whole point. What we do in tech, not that software. I mean, it's taking existing things and you're making it better, right? So it's not
Exactly.
like even if you look at, you know, what before Facebook, there was a MySpace, right? It's a better version of Facebook. And before MySpace, there was another social media tool. So you're iterating constantly. So to
Exactly.
anytime we hear, especially, and I know, and I'm just talking about from a technology standpoint, but when you start looking in the blockchain crypto world, I know a lot of participants there are just totally anti this government, anti control. Everybody wants to be their own bank, and move accordingly. So totally aligned with what you're saying. Look, guys, if there are any questions from the audience, definitely chime in. I always find these conversations very interesting when we have the expert on the line and just make sure that that there are no questions. So I was going to bring something to the forefront. No, what do you, based on what you're seeing, and as a CEO of a major exchange in Nigeria, do you see ways that you can incorporate the eNaira into what you're doing? Um, like, what do you see is next?
Okay. So let me just get one thing out there, right? As much as the cryptocurrency industry is um against total control of government, right? Total control by the government. A lot of us are also in favor of sensible regulations. You understand
Okay,
what I mean?
fair
Sensible
enough.
regulations within the crypto space. Most of us are, especially when it comes to those exchange owners, people with proper projects within the blockchain space at all, because we don't want it to be a wild west, basically, right? You
I mean,
understand?
we need constant rug pulls, right? Like, oh, this is coming out. It's supposed to be great. Everybody buys a token. All of a sudden, developers take off with the. I think it was like what Squid Coin just did that.
Yeah, Squid
Yeah,
Coin.
yeah. Everyone just like, okay, everybody buys it. And these guys escape with 12 million. I mean, no one wants to Wild West because then it invalidates everyone, right? Then
Right, exactly.
so I totally get that. What do you having your exchange? It's a major exchange in Nigeria. What you're doing? Do you see any ways of integrating the email? Do you like? Do you what do you see in terms of that level?
Okay, yes. To be sincere, that's possibility. We already at a point before the central banking bans, we had bank APIs running on Niger Crypto, right? And most exchanges had it. In fact, we were using Paystack, we were using Monify, we were using all these are all APIs. In fact, we even had access to an API directly from the banks, right? You understand? But it's just that it was more user friendly to use instead of fintechs. But we had past compliance to even have our APIs directly run with the banks, right? Of course, they were more focused on the tech audits than even the compliance. Of course, having your cybersecurity background, you understand what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So why banks are very careful with how they share APIs. So yes, with the eNaira, we see a possibility. Yes, it's another bank with their own APIs. So why not? If you know what I mean, right? Why not?
Okay.
Another bank with their own APIs, right? Although there's a government-owned bank, but it's still a bank. Right. I'm not talking about the central bank now being a regulator. I'm talking about the central bank being a bank, right? Not a banker's bank now. It's supposed to be the B2B, banker to banks, right? But now it's B2C. They're doing direct to consumers, which is what the normal banking sector is. So why not? If the case might be, we can integrate their API, but I am 100% sure they will never give API access to cryptocurrency exchanges. Believe me.
Let
I
me,
am
you see how like excuse me, you see how you would have, tether or some stable coins within your exchange. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking at this as I use the word stable coin because it's associated with a currency. I know that Naira sometimes it starts to the whole currency fluctuates, but I look at it as another stable coin. What do you think about it? Do you agree, disagree?
Of course, no, I agree, right? The same way when we had the banking APIs, we had the fiat channels, right? It's also seen as a stable coin. And believe me, a lot of people use this, right? A lot of people a lot of people prefer in Nigeria prefer to trade with Naira than to trade with USDT. So
Oh,
which is one of the advantages we have about the foreign exchanges operating in Nigeria. We can trade with Naira, not USDT. So it's basically already existing with the banks, right? So the question now is the central bank is just adding their own Naira stablecoin. You understand? So I do not see if we are allowed to use it because let's assume a better government comes in the next 2 to 3 years in Nigeria, right? A more youth-friendly government, a more I don't see that happening, right? But let's just assume it does, right? Maybe government run by young people, right? I'm not a very political person, but when it comes to like saying okay, maybe smart young people running the government, right? Believe me, I would turn to a political person, and I'm all up for that, right? And regulations become friendly. We've seen a lot of people that have worked with the Nigerian government, right, who actually understands how blockchain can completely affect the society, right? We've seen a lot of politicians like that, right? So let's assume somebody like that comes in and the regulations become friendlier, right? And then they decide, okay, eNaira, cryptocurrency exchanges we use it. And who knows, maybe they even do better services than the banks. Why not? We're always open to that, right? We're always open to that. Anything that would make we are all in the great making life easier for the consumer, right? We want capacity, productivity, output to be increased, right? So if it is working with the eNaira, fine, right? And another fear I have about this is which I'm already seeing some elements of, right? Is they might reduce the capacity of what the banks can do so that the eNaira will be at the forefront of a lot of things, right? There is a bit of a panic from the banks, but this is a bit quiet. So nobody's really talking about this, right? But if you look internally to the banks, is there that panic exists, right? So the thing is, they would want to reduce some of the technological capacity of the bank. Let's say USSD banking, for instance, right? Whereby the banks work directly with telecommunication companies, right? We have already started seeing signs where they want to build this bridge that no, you do not work directly with the telecommunication companies. The central bank works with the telecommunication companies, then you plug into the central bank.
interesting.
You understand? So we've seen the signs of all this. So the question it still goes back to what I want to ask, right? Is banking about to be socialized in Nigeria? That is it. Like it's crazy, right? And why this is scary is Nigeria has had some of the best central bank governance across the years, right? Um, 2005 to I think about 2010, 2009, 2010, we had an individual called Professor Chukwuma Soludo, right? He's a UNN Harvard alumni, right? He's somebody that has he's well known all over the world. He's one of the top economists all over the world. He handled the central bank, right? So the central bank has been this place whereby even if the Nigerian government is faltering on the fiscal side, right, the central bank has a way of making sure businesses survive, if you know what I mean, right? So after him, we had another Professor Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, right, who won the best central bank governor 2010, 2011, 2012 in the world, right? Bloomberg rated him as one of the best central bankers ever to exist, right? And under these two tenures, you had fintechs thriving through their policies, right? You had fintechs thriving, fintechs like Paystack, Flutterwave, a lot of fintechs came about, right? And these are creating jobs for youth. Like the value of the naira was stable, right? Businesses could invest with a bit of comfort, right? And since these guys came in, then this MFL came in sometimes in 2015, the current central bank governor, right? It has been on a downward spiral, right? Because in this case, central banks are supposed to be independent of like the federal government, the fiscal side, but it takes and chews more towards the federal government, right? And it has been like this downward bad policy upon bad policy, not just on the regulatory side, but also monetary policy decisions. The naira has never been more volatile than it is today, right? I just told you about 360 to 560, right? The naira has never been more volatile, right? The central bank, cronyism has always existed in Nigeria. It's not new, right? Cronyism exists in every part of the world, including the United States. There's a lot of nepotism even in the United States, cronyism in the United States, where you need to know somebody to get jobs, right? But there is still, in every organization, you still need a level of like merits, right? Like get the right people in the right places so that at least the organization can move, if you know what I mean, right? In Nigeria currently, yes, there has always been cronyism, but right now it's on another level. Let me give you some context. Before the central bank cryptocurrency ban, right? The central bank had a team of like some people that were supposed to analyze the blockchain industry, right? And get to understand how the blockchain industry affects the traditional market and whether it's a bad or good thing for the central bank, right? Now, if you look at all the individuals within that supposed blockchain committee, right? Nobody really understood what blockchain is. You had nobody with blockchain experience, right? You had nobody with, but they were in a committee, they were being paid for doing that, right? So, how do you expect the central bank to have a good policy position when they were rolling out the eNaira? They called us, like the central bank called some major fintech stakeholders, right, for like a presentation, right? The presentation, it was they basically copied what was happening in Switzerland, right? What the Swiss had planned for CBDC and just tricked up some things and rolled it out as a plan for the CBDC. Do you really expect it to be effective?
But to be fair, though, right?
Right?
It's to be fair, the blockchain industry is relatively new. Even in there's a scramble right now in private sector, like big banks right now to hire people with blockchain experience, even just to get people they might not have experience, but they're just like, well, this is what your focus is. It's still an industry that it's not like people are still trying to wrap their even
It's
though yeah,
it's a new industry, right? But there are those people that understand the industry already.
100%.
Nigeria Nigeria is a place whereby the average wage is the average wage is less than $100 a month, or let's say about 150 to $200 a month, right? So that's what the average wages are in Nigeria, right? There are people with blockchain that would be willing to even work for less than that and be paid, but they have the blockchain knowledge, they have experience in blockchain, right? They've worked for one blockchain startup or the other. These are the type of people that were employed by the SEC in the US, right? You saw a lot of private sector experience, right? Okay, let me give you some let me give you some context, right? If you look at the composition of this SEC, right, not on blockchain right now, right, of the Treasury Department, the SEC in the US, you will see both people that have played in the private sector and career civil servants, that's career public service officials, right? Steve Mnuchin is a former Goldman Sachs exec and was made the head of treasury in the United States, right? Outgoing head of treasury in the United States. Yellen has a lot of experience. So you have like sort of people from both sides of the aisle, right? Having this particular experience and bringing in this particular experience. In Nigeria, so you could find out a situation whereby you have a complete square in a complete square peg being put in a round hole, right? So there were people, they called a lot of us for advice. They formed so many committees then, I remember, right? Where I did a whole lot of work, where I was not paid, by the way, but I did a whole lot of work in bringing out blockchain frameworks. The SEC did a lot. Kudos to the SEC in Nigeria, right? They are one organization that have actually worked directly with the blockchain industry, but it's just unfortunate that the central bank has more regulatory power than they do in Nigeria, right? So a lot of things that we have drafted, looked at what is happening in that part of the world, drafted sensible regulations that would make, especially to avoid scams. But all this were thrown under the rock for just the destructive approach. You understand why I mean? Rather than the harder approach of actually following a streamlined, sensible regulations. And let me break your bubbles, right? After the CBN did what it did, there have been more crypto scams in Nigeria than ever.
When you say did what they did, you're regarding February
Yeah,
or
regarding February, there has been more crypto scams in Nigeria. Let me even give you some context. When the eNaira came out, some scammers opened in their own contract on I think an Ethereum network and called the eNaira, and a lot of people fought for the scam, right? So it's they have really done nothing to educate people, right? It's the private sector that is doing all the education, and when it comes to this is a very young industry, like you state. So there is not much money yet. You understand in terms of capital base in the industry. So educate. We are doing as much as we can, right? But you can only do up to a limit, right? It's the government that has to come in and do this.
I want to before we close out, I want to kind of touch base and drill into something that you said, and this is just like a warning for everyone. So, what she goes to now, we're talking about a particular scam, and I haven't personally seen this, but just based on the description that you just said, right? Someone can go on Ethereum. There's a concept of smart contracts, and anyone can create it. It's a public blockchain. Or, I've experimented with them. You could create it. So what the scam is, and like I said, I haven't researched it, but just based on your description, someone created a smart contract and named it eNaira, and then it's now public. It's not associated with the banks. It's not associated with the CBN, but it was a way to now fool people into sending them money on this public. So so that's just to give some context around that particular type of scam going on right now to just watch out for. But yeah, look, listen. Every time you come on, man, like I love these conversations because it's one thing to like read about it outside looking in and like look at the white papers, look at the news articles, hear it. It's another thing to talk to you based on your level of vast experience in the industry, what you currently do as opposed as in terms of being a CEO of Niger Crypto, and just just really just saying, hey, this is what I'm seeing right now. So, I always love our conversations. I always appreciate you taking the time to come on the show, especially being a continued guest. Like I mentioned it to you when February came. I said, anytime I hear anything about Nigeria regarding crypto, digital, look, I'm going to contact you. I want to talk to you. I want to get your thoughts on it. So I really, and you said anytime, and I really thank you for standing by that and being a friend of the show. Before we close out, please let people know where they can find you. Shout out to Niger Crypto and so forth.
Yeah, so as usual, you can check out nigercrypto.com, right? Very soon we'll have our USD rollout, but of course with some limits, right? So even users in the US would be able to use our services. We're currently also incorporated in Wyoming, right? We are trying to develop, yeah, we're trying to develop a great global strategy, and we're working towards a money transmitter license in the United States. So it's going to take some time. But we need to build capacity over there too, right? So watch out for that, right? Also check out, you can reach us on our social media, on Facebook, Real Niger Crypto, Instagram, I think Real Niger Crypto too, and also on Twitter, Real Niger Crypto, right? Then you could also check out my index. I don't talk about this much, right? But is a lot of people are beginning to tell me that they use it, the Barwi 30, BARWI 30.com, right? So it's the crypto index that has been tailored to the crypto space. That's BARWI30.com, right? So
I want to put it on I'm going to find it to put it on the website. What is it? BAR?
Yeah, WI30.com. So I'll just drop the link on the chat or on the comment section, right? Okay, on the private chats. Let me do that, right?
Wait, I think I did it. Is it the Barwi 30 Bitcoin altcoin risk weighted index?
Yes, exactly. So it's an index that has been tailored to have the characteristics of the cryptocurrency markets, right? So I worked in that, and it has been useful to a lot of people. The index has done a quite amount. Of course, the whole crypto market has done a quite amount in the last 1 year, right? So it's not. I wouldn't say there's any ingenuity, but it shows you where the crypto market is at every point in time. That's what an index does, right? And this was built with the characteristics of the cryptocurrency market in mind. So you can look at that. I try to use that. I try to use volatility to index it and things like that. So that's it. And this is how you can reach me. Always a pleasure to be here, Nnamdi, right?
Hey,
And
I want to make a I want to make a promise. Listen, when
all
you
right.
come in the USA, I don't know what the date is. Let me know. I want to schedule you on the show. I want to talk about the rollout. I mean, because we're a technology platform, we have to talk about the technology behind it. But
Okay.
I also want to make sure that people know, and I want to use this platform to promote it. So keep me posted
Definitely.
when that happens. Obviously, if something happens prior to that, whether some news, I'm going to have you back on. We can talk about it,
All
but
right.
definitely with the
Definitely.
US launch, keep us posted so we can have you on the show. And for all, that's the index. I just put it down in the chat, and also you see it now on the screen.
Yeah.
As always, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your evening and also your weekend. To all, everyone else, thanks for tuning in. You catch us every week. Tech Behind FinTech, 12 p.m. We have a website we just launched, the techbehindfintech.com. Hold up. I want to put it in the comments. Go to the website. You can also watch the show live from the website now. And you can drop your email. You drop your email, you're gonna get an email confirmation that you just need to confirm. And yeah, from there we can keep you posted on future shows as we get our email list together. Once again, everyone, thank you. Let me just put this on as well. Techbehindfintech.com. You can see us there. All right. I am now, I think it's over. Once again, man, great show as always. Thank you very much. You take care.
You're welcome. Cheers.
Yes.